between two defenders. Coming back, it's 4-on-4. Howard, pass to Murphy. Down low, shot scored! Stewart drives in, has space. He shoots, he scores! Austin Stewart with the hat trick, and the Hornets have the lead.
Hello, friends and fans, and welcome to the Hive Archives, our way of telling the story of classic games through those that live them. I'm Joe Hutzler, your host, and today's game hits very close for yours truly. It was my first exposure to Lynchburg in spring of 2015, and I wasn't even supposed to be there in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. But 5 years ago today, at the time of this recording, I was in the booth for one of the most improbable comebacks in men's lacrosse history, in which Lynchburg punched their ticket to their first national championship game appearance. As an extension of the Lynchburg men's lacrosse program's weekly podcast, the group got together, including Colin McGuire, the host of the podcast, Coach Kudelka, Austin Stewart, Aaron Murphy, and Hunter Thompson, to talk about the 2015 game and skip past that first half and go right into the historic second half of play.
Welcome. It is Friday, May 15th, and for the podcast this week, we're trying a new concept with the help of Joe Hutzler and LHSN. We are actually going to be able to watch some of the 2015 semifinal game against Gettysburg and commentate as it goes along a little bit, give some backstory about the season. As the past weeks have gone, we've kind of matched up the time of the year with the dates of games that have had in previous years. So luckily enough, we have Hunter Thompson, Austin Stewart, and Aaron Murphy with us on the call. Can you guys give a little rundown of how things have gone, what you guys are doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. This is Hunter Thompson, the defenseman class of 2015. Made my way to Lynchburg from Salem, Virginia. And right now I work in a technology services company based out of Richmond, Virginia.
I'm Aaron Murphy. I'm class 2016. I'm originally from Downingtown, Pennsylvania. I now currently live in unemployed, but getting a job soon, hopefully with construction. So, see how it goes.
Austin Stewart, class of 2016 attackman, from Reicherstown, Maryland, live here now, and I run Millen lacrosse camps and tournaments, as well as Team 91 Maryland, and coach at the McDonough School. Pumped to be on.
Cool. Well, as we get this game going, I think we can hit a lot upon the first half. I know Joe's setting us up so we can get right into the third quarter where kind of the comeback began, which we'll watch in a second. But I think heading into that, we can talk a little bit about the lightning delays and how unique that was with all the elements of being a national semifinal and being at a field that didn't have lights.
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember we talking about last night, and it kind of really stuck with me since then. It was just kind of a crazy weekend as a whole. My senior class, we got to graduate in a private ceremony the day before, excuse me. And coach gave us the option, see what day we wanted to come up. And remember, we decided to stay, enjoy the day in Lynchburg, and then made our way up, not knowing that it was going to be an interesting day in terms of lightning delays, storms, getting amped up, ready to go, and then having to turn it off for 30 minutes a couple different times. And it was definitely unique for sure.
Yeah, I just always remember, and what kind of sticks with me is, Hunter, you kind of touched on it, but trying not to get too overly and mentally ramped up in those breaks, because I didn't know, none of us knew if we were going to have another three of them, if we were going to finish the game that day. We were hopeful, but it was really important for us. And I think the coaching staff did a great job of this, as well as the seniors, of just kind of keeping everybody focused. But, the vibe in the locker room was quiet and calm and like, let's get ready to do this. Nobody was, wasting any kind of energy, but you could tell everyone was still really mentally focused throughout those weather delays, which I think gave us an advantage later on in the game where, we may not have gotten things clicking right away, but what we did have was, we had a focus to win that game from start to finish, and that really came to fruition towards the end. So
I think one of the interesting parts too is you never knew how long the delay was. So it was I personally I would eat earlier in the day, and then when you play, like, you warm up and then you have to go take a break. Like, I didn't really want to eat anything. Like, I also didn't know, like, it was going to be like 30 minutes. And then, like, you play a little bit and then, like, you're not hungry. And then you go sit in the locker room and you're like, well, should I eat a bunch of food? And then, like, you go back out and you're slow. And it's like, it was hard to, like, figure out, like, what to do. Obviously, Vin Curran had no problem deciding what to do whatsoever. But, like, playing, I just remember now thinking back, we talked about it, like, it was hard to decide, like, should I eat more? Should I not eat? Like, we're going to go back out in 10 minutes. It's going to be an hour. Like, there's just a lot of unknowns, and it was just a weird situation to deal with.
Yeah. I think, I think there's so many factors that go into that entire week, honestly. And, we beat Salisbury Wednesday night. And as soon as that game was over, which was about 9:00 at night, John Waters, athletic director, Stephanie McLemore, who was in charge of the baccalaureate, and a lot of other folks on campus really kind of, helped and did a great job of allowing you guys that option of, what to do as far as graduation was concerned, because we were supposed to graduate on Saturday. And Gettysburg had stated that the game was going to take place Saturday no matter what. They had graduation on Sunday. And so we were kind of put in the situation to kind of figure that out. And, and so like Hunter, you alluded to, we met as a senior class and a coaching staff and kind of figured out, let's let you stay here on campus Friday, enjoy all the ceremonies and the pomp and circumstance that go along with that, not only for you guys, but obviously for your families. There's so much that goes into play to that. And then, we'll wake up at like 6:30 on Saturday morning and get in the bus and drive up and eat. And then, really, when the video is going to start in the second half, it's probably close to like 6:00 at night. We had eaten at about 11:30. We had John Waters had gone to the store during the day and gotten some peanut butter and jellies and making sandwiches for you guys on the sideline. And that's our athletic director. That's the beauty of Division III. So I still think it's amazing that on a Division III semifinal day, we traveled 4 hours, sat in about a 2.5 hour lightning delay, and then finished this game at about 8:00 that night. And made for a crazy day, but obviously, one that we'll never forget.
I think rolling off that, Hunter, can you talk a little bit about the senior class and I think handling these types of uncertain situations and how you guys, I know last night you talked about the balance of positions, balancing graduation, all that really came together for that day.
Yeah, definitely. So my class as a whole, we talked about it a little bit last night, we're a defensive heavy class. Other than Todd and Baker, everyone was a goalie, a short stick D-midi, or a pull. That was it. And it was really unique because at the beginning of the season, we actually had some personnel change. And eventually it was on defense, other than Cole Barrett, it was all seniors, which was really unique to have. And really, it honestly lightened the load for us as a group too, because we knew what we had to take care of. And then Stu, Murph, Todd, Dan, Cornelius, you, Colin, we knew you guys were going to take care of the rest. So it was kind of nice just to be able to line the load of everything going on. You only had to focus on one thing. And I remember Coach always saying, like, if you win your one battle, the rest will take care of it itself. And it honestly was an easy senior year just because we had such a good team from top to bottom. It really, like we talked to Coach P the other day, he's like one of the easiest teams to coach. It was also one of the easiest teams to be a senior on because you weren't worried about what people were doing. We knew over the summer everyone was working out. We saw what everyone was doing when you were on campus. So it was honestly pretty easy. The work wasn't easy, but in terms of once it was game time, all the work had already been done. And then in terms of handling everything that went on, we didn't talk about this, but the number of traveling issues we had as a team that year in terms of buses, in terms of going in the wrong direction, in terms of 12-hour bus rides that we had to do, honestly, a rain delay, it was draining, but I mean, we backed up into a phone pole after a game.
Crazy Rodney.
Yeah, and then we drove back home and then went up to Stevenson to play a top 5 team the next day. This team, weirdly enough, that stuff actually handled it where you're able to handle that. It's draining mentally, kind of like what Murph was saying. You don't really know when you're going to do. You got to stay up, stay amped and stuff like that. But in terms of, I was laughing thinking about it yesterday. I mean, we had 4 bus trips that I would never wish on my worst enemy. And when we had that all in one season, dude, and but it primed us for, what happened, which, is kind of unique, but we were ready for it.
Yeah, and Hunter, I'll just add quickly, it is funny when you think about all the things that went wrong. Like, my favorite memory of that was when we literally had a bus switch in the middle of the highway. And, the highlight of that, we had one or two options. We could have complained or responded how we did. And we were all excited because it was the first time we got given a sleeper bus. So everyone was just laying down, having fun with it. But we just made the best of it. But speaking of the bus trips, I think, what's cool about this Gettysburg game that we're about to watch the second half of is, we lost three times in 2015. And one of those games was to Gettysburg. And it was on one of those long bus trips for spring break where we went north and, we went up and stopped and played Gettysburg, lost a tough game that we felt like we probably should have won. And then we kept going up to Endicott in Boston and lost again. And, as much as none of us like to lose, I will say that I feel strongly that we don't have the run we have without that spring break trip of 2 losses. We learned so much about ourselves as a team. Hunter, you mentioned personnel changes, which, we expose our weaknesses when we lose. And fortunately, we had a great group of guys and a great coaching staff to redirect the ship, so to speak. And, it was really downhill from there. And I credit a lot of our success that year to those 2 consecutive losses combined with, the bonding we had on that long trip, whether we won or lost. I think, Hunter, you mentioned how close-knit our team was and how easy it was to be a senior. And I think, winning certainly helps bonding. Everyone's happy when you're winning. But when you're losing and you can still be as close as we were, it told me right away that we were a really special group.
Well, here's a funny little segue to that, and then we'll get into the game. But so on our way back from Endicott, we remember we left Boston really early, and on a I think it was a Wednesday, and we lost to the Gettysburg original game was supposed to be played on Saturday. We had snow. The game was moved to Sunday. Lose by a goal. We travel up to Boston, have one day in Boston, play, come back. But when we stopped at one of the stops, and you guys will laugh at this, Evan Leader and I were kind of talking, and it might have been like a Wawa or someplace like that. And he's like, Coach, when we get back to campus, we're going to go over to like Hopwood, and we're going to meet as a team, and we're going to really iron some stuff out. And I was like, Evan, I think that's a great idea. Except we have about 10 more hours on this bus trip. And I'm just going to give you some bit of advice that when we get off this bus in 10 hours, I don't think anybody's going to want to go to Hopwood and sit around and talk. I think everyone's going to want to go their own way and do things. So if you guys want to meet in the back of the bus, I'll stick my head out the window. I don't care what I have to do, but that might be the best utilized time that we can have here. And, and to Evan Lee, next thing I know, I turn back at the back of the bus and there's all these guys standing up and everybody's talking. But I always remember that being a really funny conversation with Evan, of kind of like a little bit of a light bulb moment of like, okay, I get that, Coach. That kind of makes sense. And move on,
Well, it's crazy too. It came from that. I think I actually remember Evan asking like me and Eric, like, hey, let's get the defense in the back and start talking. And I was like, okay, Evan, taking the initiative, and 5 years later, I found out it had nothing to do with him. Okay.
No. He started it, but he had the idea of doing it when we got back to campus, and I was like, I don't know what you're gonna do for the next 10 hours, but you might be able to get some stuff done in that time. You got everybody here. And,
and I remember it too because Aaron and I got kicked off of our seats in the back of the bus.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
I was more pissed about that, I think.
Yes, you did. Well, I just remember because after the Endicott game, I think we can jump into the game after that, but that meeting was big for, again, it was on defense, but it was mostly seniors at that point. I remember Coach K, your comment after the Endicott game, because we were good defensively, individually. We knew that. We weren't really worried about that, but I think you made a comment like you're all playing like independent contractors. You're you can beat your guy 1-on-1, but we were getting beat not being the 2 slide, not being the 3 slide, whatever it was. And I just remember that was probably the worst thing to hear, because you knew you had the talent to be good individually, and you were all seniors. You'd all played a year together, and then to hear that, I mean, I don't know if you guys still do it, but do you guys still lock arms when you walk out to midfield?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if our class was the first class to do it, but we had never done it before them. But the reason we did that was because that honestly, that comment is like, you guys are being independent contractors. We just kind of looked like we're not going to do that anymore. And we kind of just locked up, and it was kind of cool to, then we started at Cortland, and you see all of them standing individually, and all of us is just one line. And that's kind of what came away from that meeting, that, you know, probably might not have happened at Hopwood, because I definitely just wanted to go to bed after that, but I'm glad it happened on that bus ride.
That was Coach Brzezinski's line, independent contractors. He loved that.
Yep.
That was his. I'm not taking any credit for that. So, all right, Coach Hutzler, you got it rolled up, queued up?
Awesome. So I think a cool part that we're just right now jumping into, like kind of jumping into the fray of things, which was the slogan. But if we had a camera angle on the other side, you'd see right behind our bench all the guys, alumni, that guys wearing the black long sleeves, just the group investment I think we've talked about before, of each person on the team doing whatever they can to add value to the game, to the program at that moment.
Yeah, I think, Merv, you brought it up. We outnumbered them, I think, in this game, like alumni, and with everyone coming in. I mean, it literally it's like a college student section back there, like for a basketball game, with everyone that showed up, like guys we had played with, guys we had known. And well, I always forget, but I remember they made that Beat Gettysburg video beforehand, and like all these guys that played back in the early 2000s, you saw them there, and they had no idea who we are. And I think that was like their opening line, like, you don't know us, but we know you. And that was just cool to, you know, put a face to the name and see everyone in the stands there.
It was almost like a home game for us, just because it was more like centralized from where most of our alumni are. Like, there's not more alumni from like above the Mason-Dixon line than below it, or Maryland and above. So it was like, instead of having to drive 4 or 5 hours, alumni were driving 2-3 hours. So it was almost made it easier for them to get there and support us.
Yeah, and I think one of the coolest parts about that, right, we've talked about it a bunch, it would have been really easy for people to leave. I mean, I don't know how many fans I know who just wait for 2.5 hours in the pouring down rain in their car to watch a lacrosse game. But that just tells you how much the program means to all those guys. And, you know, obviously our parents weren't going anywhere, but I think part of the reason we did outnumber is probably because a lot of Gettysburg fans said, I'm not going to wait in this rain for 2.5 hours. I made the effort. And our guys are just built a little different when it comes to that.
I think strategy-wise, we can talk a little bit about that now for adjustments being made. I think, Coach, you probably have the score right now of what it is, but I know we are offensively, we talked about it last night. Stu, you were talking about it, just getting opportunities but not capitalizing. So I think that played a role as well, in like sort of a combination with the fatigue and all the mental aspects that went on with the delays.
Yeah, I mean, I think – go ahead, Coach.
I was just going to say the score was 7-2 at halftime, you know, and I think, you know, we came out at halftime and did a couple of different things to them, as you can see here. And it's a long possession, you know, no shot clock. And to their credit, I remember, you know, I remember thinking like, man, we just threw a lot at them in a possession and just couldn't really, you know, we can't really get to the cage here. You know, they defended us really well. And, you know, they were just such a really sound defensive team. I think the first time we played them, it was 6-5 was the score, maybe, or 7-6. So, you know, a little worried after this possession, honestly, because it's 7-2 and, you know, hoping to come out of the gate swinging and maybe close it to 7-3, 7-4, but that obviously didn't happen.
Yeah, and I'll just add, you know, I think I touched on it, but as a team, this was not typical for us to a degree. We were very used to coming out to a hot start versus almost everybody we played that season. You sometimes it was 3-4 nothing before you blinked, and obviously that helps any team get some confidence and get rolling. But to your point, Coach, they were really good defensively, and we ran almost every offense we had and trying to get looks. But I do think our success all season, we fell back on that when it counted the most. We weren't as worried anymore. I, as a junior who'd been there before, but also that specific season, it could have been really easy to panic at 7-2, but 5 goals didn't sound like that much for the offense we had. And then it got to 9-2, and then you start to worry a little bit, but still hanging on to hope, saying, "Hey, we're getting these looks that we want. We just got to start executing."
I'm just waiting to get burned. I'm just waiting for it.
Yeah, we definitely, we tried to throw a couple wrinkles at them defensively and, zone here a little bit and just, doing anything to, maybe get them a little bit out of rhythm. We played mostly man-to-man the first half. I think we're about to vacate the zone here pretty quickly, but, you're just trying to do anything you can just to kind of scratch and claw. This time, the beauty, I think, of our sport sometimes is you get to this time of the year, you've kind of tried a bunch of stuff. You got a lot of stuff in your back pocket that you're trying, you can use if you need to. You don't want to have to go to it, but, and they were good enough where they had so many talented, that's just a great play right there. I thought we played zone pretty good in that situation, and they just kind of threw a 15-yard skip, and the kid caught it and finished. It's hats off to them. That made it 8-2 with about 10 minutes to go in the third.
Yeah, I remember defensively, especially too, with at this point, Eric is screaming press every time someone has the ball, and not necessarily to even take the ball away, but just, it's key. We were athletic enough when a team played fast, and it's going to start happening. But when we play fast, other teams will mess up. We were quick enough, and we could bounce back. If you got to step on us, but we engaged you 20 yards away, we're going to catch up to you by the time you're shooting. And that's kind of what we talked about during halftime defensively, is just we didn't really need to take it away. We knew you guys were going to take care of what you needed to down there, but just limit the shots. Every shot's going to be contested. Every shot's not going to be inside. And like you said, that zone, we played pretty good, actually. And sometimes it's just not your day. And at that moment, you're just like, that play was not our play. And you just got to have a short memory. And, I kind of use that today, even in work. It's just like, if you have a bad day, you got to have a short memory because you got to keep going. And there's still a lot of time left in this game.
Something
I think
about, sorry.
No problem.
I'll go, Hunter. Something you talked about yesterday is the flexibility and seniority and depth that we had at short stick. And here's Luke guarding, and I think that was a unique thing to that year. And I thought that was a really cool point yesterday.
Oh yeah, it's no surprise we had 6 poles out there half the time. Luke, correct me if I'm wrong, Coach. I think Cullen and Luke played quite a bit our freshman year on that 2012 team. So they've been doing this for 4 years now. Now, Luke and I had miscommunication right there, and they led to a goal. And that's 2 seniors that messed that one up. But you'll see it here in a second. And, I'm not bashing on Luke, even though that was definitely his slide. Luke, Cullen, and Howard's the best short stick D-midi I've ever played with, that I've ever seen. And Luke and Cullen are right behind him because of that. And you don't know a good defense until you have short stick D-middies, because when I don't have to worry about sliding to someone, it changes everything. I can be ready to slide, but it changes everything when I see Howard on quite possibly their best attackman, and I'm not worried about it. Or Luke, who's about to guard a 3-time All-American, and he just looks at us and says, "Don't slide." That's confidence you only get 4 years in. And also, we knew, and we talked about a little bit, this was going to be our last game as a class if it ended like this. If the clock stopped right now, we're hanging up our jerseys. And fear is an excellent motivator. Not that we were scared of what was going on, but we were not going to let this is not going to be our last game. We weren't going to end our game at Gettysburg, and end our career there. And you'll see it here in a second. We go 42 and just press out and just start playing as much as we can and getting the stick on them as much as we can, and it starts leading to something big.
Yeah, while this last possession, because this possession is, you guys alluded, this is a big one, right? I mean, we're down 9-2. We just failed clear, and now they're going to milk the clock again. There's no shot clock. Coach Brzezinski on the bottom of the screen is, ready to kill somebody. And, but I think like that's the beauty of, I think our number one, I think Coach Brzezinski did an unbelievable job with you guys down there. Coaching you guys and giving you some freedom, but at the same time, hopefully putting you in the best position to be successful. And I think that's what really good coaches do, and that's why he's one of the best. And I think defensively, you're right. We had Luke, we had Cullen, we had Chris Howard, Cole and Joe Vincent. Zach Thompson gets in here, because we're getting tired a little bit, and we had some depth, and, more than anything, that short stick committee, when you have more than two of them, and we had three of them that were really, really good, it did give us some autonomy to do some stuff. And they won us a lot of games. They scored a lot of goals. And Chris Hawley in the cage. So it's kind of neat seeing the personnel that we had. It was like Coach Brzezinski said all along. I mean, there was, we were just trying to put you in the best positions, because once we got you in those positions, we knew you guys were going to do great things.
Yeah, his favorite quote is "Know thyself." Don't be who you're not. And like, I'm not a takeaway guy. Evan's not a clearer. And, you just get yourself in the best position. Stuff like this happens right here.
Yeah. Great play by Cole. One more. Coach McGuire.
McGuire should have shot it. I'm saying McGuire should have shot it, but
no, he knew what he was doing.
I think right there, like seeing the 9-3, seeing the 3 go up on the scoreboard. I know we talked about it yesterday, but the feeling that happened after the Cabrini game earlier that year, knowing that we were more than capable of making a run.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I talked about this briefly, but you can kind of almost see in that clip. That's the first time I score a goal in this game, which was unusual for me in that time. A lot of times I was scoring early in the first quarter. And I almost had like a feeling of relief. And to your point, Colin, like, okay, this is palpable now. We can do this. We just needed to kick the door down. And I think in that span where we weren't scoring, we did play a little more panicked and, tried to score a 5-point goal. And coach always talks about just get one, just get the next one, and we'll keep playing. But it doesn't happen in a matter of 5 seconds. So we really had to just stay patient and truly believe that it was going to turn. And to your point, when it said 9-3, a lot of teams would have had the idea of like, oh, finally we scored a goal. But we were like, okay, now let's score the fourth and on.
I think none of that happens either without like all the alumni in the stands and all the people there too. Like that palpable feeling didn't just come from like our team. It came from obviously the guys that were on the team in the stands, but then like parents and alumni, and just the feeling of like you could feel the support that they were like, they had growing confidence, we had growing confidence, and it was just like the right mix of like, this is gonna happen. Like it's coming, we're coming. Like, just wait.
Every goal just kind of got louder too, which was crazy to feel like. And I don't know, it was every goal, the bench got louder, the fans got louder, and it just, I don't know, it fed us so much.
Yep.
Yeah, and Hunter, you mentioned like the idea of, you knew the offense would do their job, you had to do yours. And to your point, what's cool about our team that year, and most years, but specifically this one, was we felt the same way. We knew that we've never really played from behind, but we knew for some reason we just felt comfortable that you guys were going to figure it out, and so were we.
Oh man, I love that goal, Murph.
Just to reiterate, I was telling that kid how much he sucks.
I can just tell how angry you're shooting this ball, like just watching the film.
I remember, I specifically remember the feeling of that. Of like, I pick the ball up, I look upfield, 'cause, like usually, there's people open up there. I see that guy coming, and as soon as I start going downhill, like 52 overruns my top side, and I feel 10 on my backside, and he's trying to throw like a back check from my left hand. I could just remember feeling like, oh, I can just go right. And all of a sudden,
yeah, and I remember that play. I remember that play too because I was staring you dead in the eyes, and the ball came about 100 miles an hour right past my head.
McGuire, close your eyes. McGuire, close your eyes right here.
McGuire.
We don't have the version today that we had yesterday of.
That was gut wrenching. That was gut wrenching for a split second during the. I remember that play vividly.
Well, just to reiterate what we talked about yesterday with that was when Todd was in, there was an unwritten rule that me and Stu never spoke about, was that we would never pass him the ball on a fast break. So whenever McGuire was in, I would throw him the ball. And there was one instance at the Mustang Classic against like Cortland or someone where like Todd like got taken out and there's like, almost immediately a fast break. And I skip the ball straight to McGuire and he scores a goal. And I look at him on the sideline and he's just palms up like, what the hell, dude? Like,
well, I think it's a good, Murph, that's a good point. I mean, Todd Galvin hurt his hamstring earlier in the playoffs, and he played in the first half of this game. Back in the start of the third, you can kind of tell he started to limp a little bit, and to his credit, he was like, "Coach, I can't go full speed, and so I need time for Colin to go in." And so we had to move a couple pieces because Colin's playing midfield as well. But and you guys have mentioned this before, but now is the time when it's 9-5 that you guys are on the field, right? We got a lot of seniors on this field, but just as many on the bench. James Cook, Andrew Fox, Adam Davey,
Baker,
Matt Baker. The list goes on. I mean, Burke Ellis had not been in the game yet. He's about to show his face here pretty soon in a big point. And to our guy, to the credit of you guys as a senior class and the rest of the guys, I mean, Todd Galvin could have easily just said, I'm going to play. And there's a point where you obviously want to be tough enough to suck it up and play. But there's also you got to be smart enough to know if you're going to help or hurt us, And Todd would ride you. He was awesome. He was tough as nails. But, just unfortunately his leg just couldn't do it,
No. And I remember, I think it was the Salisbury game. I think he played the first quarter of that game. And I remember the first goal was actually him giving me an assist. I just remember how awesome it was that I knew he was only going to play a short amount of time. I didn't know how much, and that's what he was able to contribute. I mean, he contributed more on and off field, didn't really matter, but just to have that. And then, like you said, it takes a lot of guts to say, I might be hurting the team if I stay in right now. And as a senior who did what he did that year, and, just hats off to him, hats off to the guys. We kind of learned, I think, from 2012, 2013, 2014, like some guys are leaders while they play. Some guys are leaders on the bench. It doesn't really matter. You're a senior, you know what you have to do.
I think
Go ahead, Murph.
I was just going to say, this cool thing about the team is like, there were so many alphas, but like, there weren't that many like egos that went along with it. Like, everyone thought they were the best and wanted to be the best and like wanted to score all the goals, get all the stops, get all the takeaways, and like everyone had the mentality that they're the best player. But there was also like part of being an alpha is like recognizing when you can help or hurt the team. Like, it's like thinking about like having to take yourself out of a national semifinal game as a senior is like as you said, is like one of the hardest things you could have had to do. Like, that is an alpha move. Like, it's not lifting weights. It's a mentally like alpha move of like, I'm hurting us. I might be hurting us. I don't think it was, but like someone could be doing it better and go full speed. And like, that speaks a lot to what this team, and like the same thing of like Chris Howard wanting to play offense. Like, he wanted to play offense so bad, but he helped us more at defense. And like, it took a little bit, but it got through his head that like he was going to play D-midi and like he'll do transition, do that, but he wasn't going to be an offensive player. But just speaks to like how unselfish this team was and how we're all just, everyone wants the team to win. Like, personal things didn't matter.
Yeah, and I brought it up too, but and coach touched on it as well already. But Todd comes out of this game, and it would have been really easy for him to check out and just be like, I hope we win, but I don't get to play. This sucks. Hunter said earlier this was potentially their last game. And Todd now has to watch it from the bench, and he's a guy who started every game of the season with us. But you'll see as we go into the fourth quarter where we're on offense on this right end here, Todd's the most involved guy on the bench, right next to 3-4 other seniors. And then, this play right here, which I think Joe will replay, and Hunter, maybe you can talk about it, but this play right here is exactly what told me we were going to somehow win this game. We'd practiced diving. When Coach first told us we were going to be diving for a ball in practice, I was like, what are we doing? It didn't really surprise me, but I was like, I can't believe we're actually diving for balls. And then 3-4 times in my career, there were game-changing plays where we dove for a ball, and every single time, not only did we win it, we're on the ground. Somebody in red is on the ground far before the other team is, and that was the difference.
Yeah, Dev, I do remember this. I remember, one, the ball is going right to Coach K, so I have to stare at him while I'm running full speed. And then 2, behind him is our whole bench, and the only thing that goes through your head is you're not going to dive. Whatever, you're going to get this ball, and you're not going to dive. And I think there was only maybe 3 or 4 seconds left, but for some reason, I kind of remembered the Cabrini game where they actually scored at the end of the third quarter with like 1 second left. And we had the momentum, and, we couldn't give them even a shot. Whether it went in or not, we just couldn't give them a shot. And then it was one of the most intense fourth quarters I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, so it's 9-5 here. And to Bobby Dissler's credit, he has a great quarter. Sometimes it's not how many you face-offs you win, but it's when you win them. And he won them. He won them in this quarter, and that was, Bobby Dissler. Is just a fantastic person. And it was awesome. He's fighting for our country now, which is so cool. That's the kind of guy you want.
And Dane, don't forget, we did see you miss Stu's pass on McGuire's first goal. We failed to mention that, so just had to bring that one out there. That was a missed catch by Dane Angel. But he makes up for it right here by hitting Magoo. There you go.
He probably said something about me taking too many steps on that too.
Or did it get chalked up as an assist? I don't even know if it did.
I hope not.
But it was too risky for Dane not to yell at you.
Well, it's great. I mean, too, we talked about Todd and everything, but I mean, Colin, this is your first year playing, and you are the only freshman on the field at this point. And we needed some big goals, and I think that's back-to-back goals by you. And I mean, you dodged on a close defenseman and beat a senior close defenseman to the goal. I mean, everything was going, and I think we all felt it, and it was just like Murph was saying, the crowd was all the alum there. You could just feel it building. We were winning every face-off. We were getting every possession. Everything was just kind of getting ready to just go into chaos.
And your point, Hunter. There's Colin scores. He's got 2 in this game. Daniel Owens scores a nice goal in this game. Chris Camarca, number 4, is in because we had to shift some personnel because of Todd's injury, and Chris does a great job. Joey Gianaris comes in the game and does a great job. Just some of those, those are pieces of the puzzle, that you don't really, they never show up in any of the stat columns, but they're just huge markers in these games.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that was crazy we talked about is, watching this game, and like we're watching such a short amount of time here, and we're just scoring at will all of a sudden. And that's kind of what I meant earlier, how we just suddenly kind of kicked the door down finally. But it was a weird thing to happen in that, we end up tying this game up and taking a 1-goal lead with Coach, 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. I mean, that makes it, Murph's goal makes it 9-7 with 12:51 left.
I mean, that's the
we score 3 goals in at the 12-minute marker. We score, we score 4 goals by the time, there's 11. Also, when you score to make it 10-9, there's 11 minutes to go in the game. And that was a little bit of the reality. But, like you guys said earlier, like defensively, right? You had to win your matchups. Like, Colin won his matchup. Here comes Murph. Murph wins his matchup, and, earlier in the game, we just weren't able to win our matchup. And at some point, you can X's know this thing to death. At some point, you got to win your matchup. And, you have to run by somebody and score a goal. I mean, that's just how this game is. It's the beauty of our game. And, to our guys' credit, you get it. And then once you start running, I think this next goal is Daniel Owens. And once you start running by guys, well, then other people have to slide to you, and then other people are open, and then those guys got to do their job. So like this next goal is a prime example of that. We finally start running by some people, and Gettysburg now having to adjust to it a little bit more than they were earlier. And we shot the ball really well too. I mean, this kid was a really good goalie, and he was young. He was a freshman. These are big stages, and it was really, really kind of cool how we just, Jacob Fuller's in the game, number 6. Boom, great shot by Daniel Owens.
I don't know Gettysburg's, I guess, game report going into this, but I can guarantee you they did not assume that Stu was going to have 2 assists in this game with his left hand.
Blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, Hunter.
And those guys, Daniel had a big Daniel and Chris Camarca and Joey Gianaris also had really big goals in the quarterfinal game against Salisbury. And so it's playoff time. You got to have a little bit of help here and there. Which is awesome.
Then Murph, this is all you.
Oh yeah.
So you mind pausing it really quick, Joe? And Murph can kind of break this thing down for us.
Yeah. So, as most alumni or people from this team know, basically the same play happened earlier in the year where Howard's coming down on a fast break, either from a face-off or from the defense, whatever. Say, like, perfect scenario, 4-on-3, can't ask for a better situation. And that earlier in the season, it was like, we were up 1, super close game, like 6-5 final score, 7-6, whatever it was. He decides to come down and throw it behind the back pass for God knows what reason whatsoever. But instead of doing what he does here, which is, draw the slide, just dump it to the point man, let him make a play, one more, goal. He throws it behind the back pass that is God knows how far above my head. And just, I remember thinking, looking at him like, dude, like, what? Like, what are you doing? Like, there's absolutely no, like, we could have just scored and you're going to throw behind the back pass. But that also shows, like, the unselfishness and, like, how we learned as we went. Like, Chris Howard could have done it again and been like, oh, I'm going to get it this time. Like, this is going to be perfect. In the semifinal, it'll be sick. But he decides to make the easy, simple play. Like, there's, like, at-hit pass, like, ends up being a goal. Like, it just shows how much we grew. And, like, I remember we were going in this quarterfinals game for Salisbury, and all they were talking about is how much Salisbury was a different team and how much they grew and how much they were better and how they were going to beat us. But, like, no one talked about how much we changed and how much better we got and, like, all the different things we made. And, like, that's just a prime example of, like, that shows our growth and, like, maturity as a team.
Yeah, and to your point, Murph, right, like, Coach just touched on it, but, I remember Salisbury. Salisbury is, they're a different team than when you beat them. And, we just talked about Chris Camarca, Daniel Owens, and Joey Gianaris scoring huge goals in that game. Dean Angel just makes slight work of the first team All-American short stick D Mitty that game. He scores 4 goals. Murph, I don't even remember how many goals you had in that game, but I think I had 2, and like you and I, as that season went on, it was you and I scoring less and other guys stepping up, and it just made our team so much harder to cover. Colin McGuire stepping in for Todd perfectly, not having really any issues, and Hunter to the defense. Right, there was some different changes, but everybody who played, had the same end goal in mind, but nobody had an ego. Nobody was, worried about their stats, and everyone just kept playing.
Sean Ahern would come in on attack for man up, and he was kind of a crucial cog in that wheel, and that was a really good man up unit. But so the score right now, I think that tied it, right? Is that tied up at 9?
I think so.
Yeah. So we're getting, we get one more here on this run. I think we get this next possession. And I mean, you guys, we've all been on both sides of this, right? I mean, this is what's so awesome about our sport, when it's going, right? And, and it's the momentum is by far on our side right now. And it's just kind of a matter of managing this, because there's still, like you guys said, there's still 12 minutes to go in this game. And so, 12 minutes to go, if you would have signed up for that earlier in the day, said, hey, it's tied up with 12 minutes to go, I think we all would have signed up for that,
Yeah.
And they get like you said, Hunter, yesterday, uncharacteristic turnover there. They're usually really sound in the clearing game, and we get another good one here.
And Stu, how quick everything happened, and I just was looking at the box score, and we scored 8 goals in 9 minutes and 47 seconds before the shot clock. I think that's a goal every 82 seconds on average, but I think the shot clock without that speaks even more volume to the momentum, the wind being at our back.
Yeah, and Coach, we talked about these guys earlier. If you watch right here, is one of my favorite clips in the bottom right, how invested Todd Galvin is. He's coaching Colin McGuire on what he wants him to do. You see him point to throw me the ball in the corner, and then right next to him are 2 of his best friends who are also seniors. There are 2 former starting goalies standing right next to Coach right now, and they want to win so bad. They don't have a bitter bone in their body about it. Burke Ellis, like you said, hardly played in this game. And you can see the explosion from those guys right there. I mean, that's three senior leaders right next to James Cook's another one right there. James Cook took more practice shots on off days than anybody. And he did it willingly for us. He probably didn't even get any better. I'm not a goalie, Coach is. I can't imagine taking hundreds of reps from guys just stepping down from 10 yards is making you that much better, but he did it for everybody else. And that's the kind of servant leadership that goes untalked about sometimes, but that's what made this team great. We haven't talked about it, but this team was led by an entire senior class of captains, which is not a normal circumstance. Murph and I's year, there were 4 captains. Most other years I've played on any team, there was 3 to 4 captains. But this class was so bonded together, and they said, no, we're all going to be captains together. And, as a younger player on the team, as a junior, looking up to those guys, being such a tight-knit unit just made you want to play even harder and be as tight with them as you could.
All I remember at this point too is like you said, Colin, I think we scored 8 goals in 9 minutes. We had not played defense in 9 minutes. We have not done anything in 9 minutes because we were winning every faceoff. We are fresh, and I don't know if you watched when he first came in. Luke Ernst came from the midfield, and he took, I think it was Eric, and told Eric to go to midfield, play the attack, play the midfielder, and he was going to guard number 14. There's the 2 or 3 time All-American person, and was telling us, do not slide unless I fall. And at this point, I got a lucky check there. I'm not going to lie to you, but at this point, we kind of just knew you guys had done your job now. And now it's, honestly, it's easy. You have one job. Don't let them get in the net.
And you can see it, right? Gettysburg looks tight here. You guys are flying around the field. The mojo's kind of on our side at this point. They're a little stunned, and we took advantage of that. We didn't let the moment that we just had stun us in a negative way of scoring 8 goals in 9 minutes. We rolled with it rather than, taking a deep breath and sigh of relief, like we're back in the game. We said, no, we got to finish it now. We come this far. We're going to keep going.
I think this was huge because I think they actually get a delay of game after, or not. Or I think the shot clock runs out on them because they're frantic. I think right now they're about to pick the ball up and just watch their sideline. If I remember this correctly, they were all. I mean, I could hear them screaming, but no, everyone on the field was kind of just focused on what was going on, and they don't really understand that they have maybe 3 seconds left. And just watch the emotion of their whole bench when they find out that they just run the clock out. And we get, I mean, it's like when you get a stop on basketball and a shot clock violation, the feeling you get with that, push it up, get it clear, and just get it back in y'all's hands.
Lucked out there. We should have.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Yeah. I did not remember that.
That's showbiz.
Sometimes you gotta tease them.
This was kind of a cool part in the game because we went, we decided to go, Coach Hoff and Coach Lombardo were coaching the offense, and they went, with kind of the second midfield group because kind of thinking, we're going to get one possession here. Gettysburg will probably get one more. And then we'll get another one. We want our first guys out there. So we just kind of, decided to let these guys run a little bit and see if we can get some clock off, I
can't remember. Is there like 6-7 minutes left at this point? Maybe a little less?
Yeah, probably right around, 7 because we get a man down here coming up. We go off sides.
Stu goes offsides.
I don't even remember that play.
I mean, you were on defense.
Coming up. I think we take a shot.
Oh, this is the back check, Murph, I think. Like where he barely gets to. I think he barely gets to.
Nope.
Never mind.
Nope, Stu gets stuff.
Stu gets stuff. Never mind.
Classic.
There he is. Let's watch this.
Or this might be the one where I slide upfield. Let's find out.
Nope. Yeah, right offsides.
Yeah. Right in front of the ref. He's standing right there.
So we got a flag down.
So my favorite part before the man down is I'm guarding, I believe, number 6, pure lefty, which is an Evan Leader specialty. Evan Leader just telling me he's going to go back, stay there. I hold it, waiting for him to roll back, and we get a ward off. And you see Evan pump his fist here. And you're thinking on screen, wow, Evan's a great teammate. All Evan was saying was, way to listen to me. And he turns around, starts yelling at us, and I can't repeat what I said, but I was just like, get off the field. Like, I can't listen to you.
So this was, if Coach Brzezinski was on the call right now, I mean, we really wanted to take away 14 and 18, and so when we thought about it throughout the week, it was kind of like, how do we do that? Well, we could just put 2 guys out there and cover them, and then we're playing 4 versus 3, and I think you guys practiced it a little bit, right, Hunter? And I remember when this flag came down, Coach and I were standing next to each other, and we kind of looked at each other and were like, you know what? Screw it, let's do it. And I love Coach Brzezinski with everything I have, and it's for moments like that because I think that's the beauty of him. He is willing to just go, and I was smart enough to listen to him.
Absolutely, and I think we got him within the first quarter. We got to cause turnover, and I think they probably thought we were going to throw something else at him. And we saw the call come in, we saw Bert come in, and we just kind of knew. Because weirdly enough, I mean, we do this drill. I mean, Coach probably breaks down film all the time, the drills you do. We do 4-on-3. We do the build-up, the 2v3, the 4-on-3, the 5-on-4 drills weekly. I mean, it was it on the national semifinal stage at that point? No. But, it's kind of like the Hoosiers. Nothing really changes at that point, whether you're practicing or it's for the championship. So it was insanity. We still talk about it to this day, but it worked.
And so now we got, we got Dane, and that first group is back in now with Chris, and Camarco's bumped up into that group, and Chris Cornelius, had a nice goal in this game as well. Just so many like little pieces to this puzzle were amazing that day. Wasn't a great first half, but I think this is always the hardest. You guys who coach now, and whenever you do some stuff like this, it's one of the hardest things is to kind of figure out, like, you got a 1-goal lead and you're not trying to kill it, but you're also trying to be aggressive, but you don't want to be stupid. And there's so many factors that get played into this part of a game that, fortunately for us, we were, having Aaron and Austin down there as kind of the calming force was nice. We're trying, and we wanted to get another one. We knew we probably had to get one more to win this thing, and we almost have it right here.
Oh, Hunter, I hit the goalie. I didn't get the
Oh, God.
goalie, and then got the rebound and I missed. And
I almost ran past midline to celebrate him.
Yeah. I think I hit him in the chest, and then I think when I picked this up, that guy checks me there.
Yeah. So
I remember the kid covering me in that game. He was so long and rangy, and I think it took me 3 quarters to figure out how to get by the kid. I mean, he was a very good cover guy.
The kid covering me is a transfer from Denver.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Jeff Davis, Baltimore kid.
Yeah. Well, they were. I mean, that was their. This is why. This is why both these teams are playing, right? I mean, there's, right down the middle of the field, you're really good. Defensively, they were really good. They had those big shooters. And number 24, who Chris Camarco's on right now, was, I thought he was just as good as the other two guys, just didn't get as much of the press, and so 14 and 18 were kind of the guys. 22 was kind of the quarterback, but man, 24 was excellent midi. And, I'm surprised we don't get a timeout there because but it was a nice part. We're shutting off now, so we can kind of play with some different guys down there and not have to worry about the whole scheme of everything.
Coach, you mentioned factors that go in the game, and Hunter, you asked it yesterday, but Coach, can you give a little insight on coming back to Gettysburg? And I know that everything's elevated because of the circumstances that were presented by the game itself, but returning to Gettysburg for you and coaching against Coach Janczyk, can you give a little rundown of that again?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not coaching against Coach Janczyk. This is his guys versus my guys, and I owe a lot to Coach. Coach was a huge mentor in my life. Still is, still talk to him once a week probably, and this is one of those games where we just happen to be playing against each other, and I hope at some point, I know like right now, Chris Brzezinski's been back and played on Schellenberger as a coach. Brandon Childs has. You hope that that's a special moment for those guys because that's where they spend a lot of time. I spent a lot of time on Musselman Stadium, and I loved that place, when I was a student and coaching there for 3 years. And so, you'd be remiss not to say that it doesn't enter your mind because a lot of the people there. You have such great memories when you pull up on campus, as I hope Coach Brzezinski did and Coach Childs and other coaches that have come back. But at the end of the day, this is not about the coaches. This is players win games, players play the games. I was just so happy for you guys, to get this experience, to be able to play in this game, and then obviously to win this game. You guys won the game, and
pizza.
And yeah, Chris Holland living dangerously.
That was so. Not to interrupt, Coach, but this is. We were all talking like we came out of a timeout, and all the seniors and everyone, not just seniors, but that unit was just like, this is what we wanted. We wanted ball on defense. It's kind of like a quarterback wants 2 minutes left to win the game. We wanted us with the lead and to hold them and kind of help seal it. And 22, Cole makes him go righty. He's not a righty. He's good enough to go righty, but takes a shot. And I remember it hits my stick and bounces down. I'm like, all right, ball's somewhere here. Let's pick it up. Let's get it out. And then I see 21 running. 21 is not supposed to be right there with the ball at this point.
He's not allowed to run.
21 is not allowed to have the ball at that point with that many people in white around him. And then, you know,
just around him.
Luke did not have a lot of stats in this game, I don't think. I think he shut down number 4. I don't think 14 had a goal. But this is one of the biggest ground balls I've ever seen. Then Luke, the one-man clear special, just takes it around. And this is one of my favorite sequences, you know, of this season, honestly. Just the next about 30 seconds is just amazing.
I guess beginning to segue towards the end of this thing, and I know we talked about it a little bit, but it would be great to end with the alumni support. And I know we've talked about everyone on the team with the investments, either on the field, on the bench, in the stands, and all that went into preparation and the game itself. But the alumni was a huge part, and that was a really good memory. Honestly, when you guys brought it up when they were in our locker room, was awesome.
Let's rewind that. Thank you. This is important because against Salisbury, Stu had a very similar play, but instead of putting the ball in the goal, he decided to hit the pipe for whatever reason, make it interesting, and make us all lose our shit. So I think Stu was thinking here, like, oh, God, I can't hit the pipe again. Should I go in there? But luckily he does and just puts in the goal and buries it.
The bench is just insane. This is, I mean, just look at them, like, I've been those guys before. Look at them crouching down. I've been there before, but that is a feeling. That goal, that was one of the best feelings in the world.
And Bobby, just another big face off there. I mean, like, it would have been really easy for that to go horribly wrong if they get a fast break goal or something. And then, you know, the toughness there. Murph just takes a tackle and looks the kid in the face and says, "That's all you got?"
I probably said something worse.
No.
Come on, Murph. You're a nice guy.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah, I know. But this is kind of the cool part. You know, at the end, I'll know. You know, kind of your point earlier, Coach McGuire, when you asked the question. I mean, the sun finally comes out here. You know, it was all day. And I just remember that being a really cool moment, you know, like this is, okay, you know, this is, you know, when you work so hard for something, you don't really know, you know, you're trying to go to places you've never been before. And, you know, as soon as that clock went 0, that was a, you know, that moment is what gets you up in the morning. You know, that's the moment that, is just awesome. You know, and I was just so fired up for you guys to experience that because it was really, really a special moment.
Absolutely. And, you know, like anyone, you know, the guys that are playing now, if you're listening to this, all the work you do. I mean, we talked about it last night. I know I did, but there's a time when you know you're working towards something and then you can see a clock. And you know when that hits 0, you're actually going to get to go play for that one thing. If you need motivation, I'm telling you right now, playing in championship weekend, it's been a dream of mine my whole life. It's been a dream of everyone on this call their whole life. I mean, the feeling of that's not going to be my last game. I'm going to Philadelphia. I'm playing with a group that you're a senior of. Playing with a group that, I mean, Stu and Murph and I had played since their freshman year in big games, in big moments. We had lost big games. We had won big games. I mean, just that countdown and then the swarm at that goal and then being able to run back after every game in the playoffs, you run back and see the guys who didn't get to come on the field. And that time we got to run back to all the alum that came back. The 2014 class that taught, I think 2 weeks ago, you know, TK and Camby were there. Dave Alyankian, just, I think he called it a hug, but he just punched me in the chest with excitement. And then Joe Lasicki just screaming his head off and just grabbing me and just, I mean, I'll never forget that day. I don't think any of us will, but if you're working towards anything, you're going to want to work for that moment when you know. And then, you know, I've never been a part of the team that's won the last game. And I think Lynchburg will win it, but that's the feeling you need to work towards because it's euphoric. There's no way to explain it, and it's one of the best feelings in the world.
Yeah, I think playing in this game, right? Like it's hard. It would be hard to say there was a more favorite memory for any of us, right? Like I look back and, the joy of getting to score a goal to send this team to a national championship game. The work of everyone around the team was involved in that, but that's a memory I get to cherish for the rest of my life. And, it's pretty cool. I'd be hard pressed to say there was a better comeback game in Division III lacrosse, maybe ever. And, it was on the second largest stage it could have been on the road, crappy weather, so much uncertainty, and to be able to push through with that group of guys is like you said, we'll certainly never forget that experience. And, I was shocked. I mentioned this last night. I was shocked to see all those alumni there. I was more shocked to see how many people traveled to Philly. And maybe I just didn't understand or grasp it at the time, but you fast forward to now, and I'm always coaching, so I have a tough time getting to any games, but the few I've gotten to get to, I have so much pride watching the red and white team out there on the field every time I get the chance. And, it's different now. Coach, I came down and did a clinic with you this fall, and that was the first time I've been on campus in years, and the first time I've been on campus where I didn't play with a single one of those kids. I didn't get to watch them play, but for me, I still got to go hang out with a couple who I've met through the grapevine and just say what's up to some guys. One kid I coached at McDonough was a freshman, but I got the opportunity to be a part of the group again of 4 classes of kids. I have no idea who they are. They shouldn't know who I am, but they do, because they care about the alumni. And it's cool to know that the alumni care so much about them. And as an alum now, I sure as hell I'm going to be at that national championship one day, screaming my head off just like all those guys were for us.
Thanks for getting on this call. This was obviously a special day in our program's history, and we've tried since our season was cut short 9 weeks ago. We've tried to kind of go back and highlight some of the greatest moments that we've had in the program's history, and really, besides playing in the national championship game, even though we did not win that game, this game, probably the Gettysburg game, was probably second in line to some of the great, one of the greatest moments we've ever had. And what the best part about it was just how many people, and you guys have mentioned this, how many people were involved in that, right? From President Guerin mentioning that day of graduation that you guys were playing in the national semifinals, to Dean Eccles, to Dean Sally Selden at the time, who drove up to the game. She was relieved of her graduation duties to go to the game, and to support, for the support of the school. And there's so many people were so instrumental in that game. And then, it just meant everything. Then the alumni sending the email out the day before, and kind of saying thank you. And, Mark Brown had put that together, and just so many people that were there, and then obviously carried on to Philadelphia the next week, where we had one of the largest contingencies probably ever in Division III history at a national championship game. So it means a lot to have you guys back on. It's great. It's great to talk to you. It's great to hear your voices and get your take on this game, because it was a special time, obviously, for all of us. But
Coach, I want to give one more shout out to someone.
Yeah.
Our student athletic trainer, Liz, at the time, she wasn't able to come with us to the trip. So she graduated.
Yep.
And then because of the delays, she drove up to Gettysburg in her own car to make the game. And she got there, started the second half, roughly.
Yeah.
And it just goes to speak of top to bottom, from athletic trainers to players. That's how much it meant to everyone.
Now, we've been blessed. People like Joe Hutzler was there calling it. Now Joe is, taking over the reins. He's helped with this production today, and has done a now we got games on ESPN3, which is really cool. So, well, guys, thanks. I love all you guys. Thanks for everything you've given back to this program, and thanks for reliving one of the great days in our program's history. And wish you guys the best, your families the best, and obviously we'll stay in touch. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
How'd you get at the time?
Thank you for joining us today, as we hope this is the beginning of many shows like this. If you'd like to watch some of the classic games that have already been compiled, you can do so at lynchburgsports.com/LHSN and clicking on the Classic Games headline image. We are continuing to work with our coaches to find some of that older footage that they may have and put it on that website for you to enjoy. And certainly we'll follow up today's episode with more opportunities, having alums and coaches sit down together and go through some of the greatest moments in their program's history. Until next time, I'm Joe Hutzler, reminding you it's a great day to be a Hornet, and we are one nation.
Coach, you ever thought about growing out a mustache?
No.
Have you ever had a mustache?
Have I?
Yeah.
No. Told you I never thought about it.
What's the longest your hair's ever been?
This.
No, in college it was not a lot longer, but it was long enough where I could part it, and never like that crazy.
Okay.
It's one less thing to worry about. I don't want to worry about my hair. And then if you get a mustache and people talk to you about it, like, I don't want to talk to people about my mustache.
Chicks dig mustaches, Coach.
Yeah, Murph.
I have a chick, I don't care.
You never know, she might like it too.
She seems to be very happy right now with how things are going.